Okay, good morning everybody, it's Mike, and thanks for dialing in to join me this morning. I'm going to totally interrupt a series I was in this week on action steps, and I want to jump over to something you might have seen. REDX recently completed a survey of agents across the country, and it was recently reported in Inman News as well, so you might have seen it. But I want to talk about this a little bit because I find it fascinating and true. Very, very true. What REDX survey sought out to find is what the differences between average producing real estate agents and super producing real estate agents. And they found some interesting things. So in their survey, they found that agents making $250,000 a year or more in gross commissions, what significant differences can we identify that they do to make that money that agents making around $70,000 a year? What are their behaviors? What actions, how do they compare? What's their days look like compared to each other? Let me give you some of the findings from this. For agents making $250,000 a year or more, 100%, let me emphasize this is the biggest key in here. 100% of those making over $250,000 a year had written goals and a written plan of action. They didn't keep it in their head. They weren't just running as fast as they could every day and doing as much as they could. They had written goals and a written plan of action of how to achieve those goals. Now, I fanatically believe in that myself. You know, right now in 2020, I believe that those aren't annual goals anymore. They're 30-day goals, they're monthly goals. So right now you ought to be working on your goals for the month of September and a written plan of action to achieve those goals for the month of September, because everything's so erratic in the world right now, and changing, the potential for change is so quick and dramatic that I'm trying to break the year up into 30-day increments right now. But 100% of those had written goals and a written plan of action. Of people in that income bracket, they prospect, market themselves an average of 4.6 days per week for at least 90 minutes per day, or that's an average of almost 7 hours a week of prospecting or marketing time, whatever you want to call it, promoting themselves and their business. On average, people making $250,000 or more a year are spending 7 hours a week doing that. And 81% of them have some kind of script or dialogue or talking points or framework for their prospecting efforts. They kind of say the same things to everybody. Now, whether they're sitting there reading a script to people, no, not in that income bracket. They've mastered the script, but they know what they want to say, and they've practiced it to the point where they're excellent, core competent at it. Okay, now let's compare them against agents making $70,000 a year, and let's see the differences. Agents making $70,000 a year, only 82% of them had written goals, and 66% had a written plan of action. 82% had written goals, and 66% had a written plan of action. Compare that against 100% for $250,000 earners. $70,000 earners prospected 3.5 days a week on average for an average of 60 minutes per day. Okay, so compare that against people that made $180,000 more than them, that made more than 3 times what they made. Well, they didn't prospect 3 times more. They actually only prospected an average of 1 day more a week. And they only prospected about, or marketed themselves about, an extra 30 minutes each of those days. Look at the large difference on the small action. People above 250,000 didn't do 3 times more work than people at 70. They were just more consistent. and they did a little bit more each day, not a whole lot more. And you know, folks, this gets into one of my favorite sayings, which is tiny hinges swing big doors. 33 years in this business has just convinced me that that's absolutely true. That it's not the big ideas I have. I know some of you are trying to create these awesome marketing campaigns you think nobody's ever thought of before, and the way you're going to say it is different, and then you're just going to sit back and reap the rewards. And I know I used to think that stuff too, and it's not going to happen. Nothing new's being created. You didn't come in with a surge of brilliance that nobody else ever had. And if that was such a great, awesome idea, it would have already been implemented and people would already be printing money off of it. It's not true. It's not the big things that I've thought of. It's not the big actions that I've taken. And this survey is further evidence of it. It's the little things. And that's what's so hard. The hard thing in our business isn't picking up the phone and reaching out to people or making connections or following up with people or showing homes or listing homes. Those things aren't that hard. What's hard is the consistency. What's brutally almost impossible is the persistency of my consistency. $250,000 earners only on average prospect or market themselves one more day a week than everybody else does. And they only do it for about 30 more minutes than everybody else does. But those tiny little differences played out over a 52-week year add up to amazing results. Folks, tiny hinges swing big doors. Don't miss it. It's the little things that you do or don't do every day that make all the difference. So let's go out there starting right now and make it happen for ourselves.